Well, good afternoon and welcome to BBRC Britain and English. Well, I'm very pleased that you've joined me today. And today, a slight deviant, there's a slight change and alternative to the last few weeks from looking at the principal cities and places of interest with the cities. I'm just going to mention today a few other places as a break in the places of interest in terms of cities. Although there's a lot more places that I could mention, and I will do probably in future, depending on interest. And if anybody's got any suggestions, do tell me. I'd like to certainly give you some more inspiration on your visit to England and the wider Great Britain and United Kingdom, because not forgetting it's England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And certainly you may want to look into visiting Scotland as well. I've visited Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I know you can get a coach there, catch a coach to LOCH Lomond, but you need to book up. But that's a bit of cultural information there. Another point of interest I'd like to say is weather-wise, we've got some very hot weather at the moment. It's actually 21 degrees Celsius today. It's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's very hot, although not as hot as it was last week. It's going to cool down tomorrow. Just to say, though, that if you are planning a trip to England, do prepare yourself with some summer clothes. You might think it was very cold, it's always raining, but when it gets hot, it does get very hot. So I would say make sure you've got a t-shirt, shorts, flip-flops or whatever, rather than the jeans and jumpers and everything else, because the long dresses, because you may well feel that you've got better weather than you thought. Well, I'll just go through a few places today on what will be a slightly shorter session, but nevertheless, I hope you find it as interesting anyway. You might notice to my left here, I've got an acknowledgement from Her Majesty the Queen here. This is after a card I sent as a sympathy card regarding the Duke of Edinburgh's sudden death in April, and I had that reply a few days ago. And I would recommend, if you are in London and you fancy a visit out of London to Windsor, do catch the train to Slough and another train from Slough to Windsor to visit Windsor Castle and the town there. Quite a picturesque town. Buy a few postcards, maps, whatever else you want to buy there, all the tourist shops there as well, gifts, etc. Moving on from that, I'd just like to talk about a few other places I would recommend. Now, going out into the wider country, in Warwickshire, you might want to visit Stratford-on-Avon, home of Shakespeare. All the Shakespeare history there, the Shakespeare Museum, and all the history. Stratford-on-Avon, and I will write these at the bottom of the screen as well, so you can see. And obviously look them up on Google if you want to. Another place to visit in the Midlands is Tewkesbury. That's in Gloucestershire. And by the way, these places are not close together. But if you are travelling around, or certainly you want to stay in Gloucestershire or these other principal counties, do look it up. Do have a look at the map of the area. Do feel free to decide where you want to visit. This is just a few suggestions. Tewkesbury is a nice historic town. Quite a small town. Obviously, these are smaller places than of late, where I've talked about cities. Shrewsbury, well, that's in Shropshire. And you've also got Ironbridge up there. A few places of a lot of history going back to the Industrial Revolution there. But Shrewsbury's a nice city, not dissimilar to Tewkesbury. And other places I would mention, if you are going to Durham, up in the northeast, lovely, cultured, picturesque city there on the river, the cathedral there going back about over 900 years, you might want to go to Barnardcastle. Now, it was mentioned on the news. It's been a slight political interest in the last year. I think it was about a year ago. A man called Dominic Cummings, the advisor to the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went there to get out of the way of the COVID and apparently try and stop infecting other people if he had it, and all the testicles, and also stop his children getting it and be threatened by it. So he went up there, but it became a bit of a controversial issue, shall we say, especially to the opposition. Anyway, so very nice town, worth visiting there. An old castle, the remains of an old castle there. And if you are up north, Liverpool, well, it's home of the Beatles, and well worth it on the north-west coast. If you're going to Manchester, you may want to go to Liverpool as well, and also Chester. Now, in the next few weeks, I may well look at Chester. Chester's a nice old Roman city up in Cheshire, quite a small city, but like Durham's quite small really as well. so easy to walk around, and certainly well worth a visit if you get to go up there. But I would say don't rely on a whistle-stop tour. You'll want more than a few days in England, and you'll want more than perhaps a few days in each area. And don't forget the counties do spread out, so you will decide perhaps when you get here where you want to go. But certainly if you're in London for a few days, you may want to spend a few more days, if not a week, in other parts. Certainly Scotland's going to take a good few days. I mean, if you go to, say, 2 or 3 places, 3 or 4 places, or say even 2 or 3 towns or cities, you're probably looking at 3 days. So do allow enough time. You know, so many people tell me, oh, well, didn't have enough time. So do allow more time, and do ask me if you want any more information on that as well, because I've not been to many places in Scotland. I've been to more places in the north, a few of the museums up in Durham as well, and there's certainly a lot of places to see, and that's without, you know, the cities and the towns as well included. So it can take quite a while and quite a bit of time to travel round. It's diverse and spread out, and you'll notice different cultures in different counties. It's quite unique in that respect, and different accents, as I did allude to further back on some of the other earlier sessions. Well, if you'd like to know any more information, do let me know. It's quite a short session today. Obviously, all this depends on your interest. I mean, if you're interested in steam railways, I can tell you about steam rails. If you're interested in zoos, I'll tell you about zoos and animals. If you're interested in museums and history, well, I can definitely tell you more about that, as I have done in some previous videos about places to visit. So we've done some English educational interests as well, some sessions about England and English, but next week we will look at Chester in Cheshire, an interesting small city there, and well worth a visit if you're up there. But I know probably our most important thoughts will be London, perhaps some few things in the Midlands. I mean, it's Coventry, heavily bombed, but a nice city, and city of culture as well. So that's all been in the news lately. It's Coventry, heavily bombed, sadly. Some of the old architecture going back to the 13th century destroyed. The old cathedral remains the shell still there, and they built the other cathedral in 1962. So do Google these places. So, you know, I'm blasting these out, but hopefully it will help you, and I can definitely get you some photographs at some point, and I'll post those. But certainly these places are spread out, different counties, like I say, from County Durham down to Warwickshire and Gloucestershire, and of course further on down in Berkshire is Windsor. Thank you very much for joining me. I do hope you enjoyed this short session on this hot day here, and I do hope it was of help to you. And I know that next week, well, I've got the summer shirt on today. I might be back on the shirt and tie next week, but I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, just last point, I do recommend Wetherspoons. No money in it for me, nothing. Local cafes, of course, but also Wetherspoons. If you want a cheap meal, went in with a friend last night. Well, they're all open again now, and well, there you are. Fish and chips or anything else, burger and chips, but reasonably cheap, and other things as well. Certainly a few pub meals you might like, and drinks as well, plus tea, coffee, and whatever else you like, and of course family pub, and various outside seating normally as well. Thank you very much for watching.